All right, the clock ticked over. We are going to get started. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Colin Fair. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Behavioral Sciences at UAGC. I will be serving as a co-chair for this session, along with my wonderful colleague, Mick Holliday, who is also a faculty member in the Department of Behavioral Sciences. And just a few logistical things, and then we'll get out of the way. As co-chairs, we want to make sure that everybody has a great time. So just a few housekeeping items here. So the session is monitored, it's recorded, so we have quality assurance and we can share those recordings out later. So just make sure that your microphone is muted throughout the duration of the session unless our presenter invites you to speak. Of course, you can engage in the chat. We highly encourage you to engage in the chat throughout the session. Great place to ask questions that we can pool those and answer those later at the session. And just a reminder, the recording for this, if you want to look back, and other pre-records are available on the Culture of Care Summit website. So with that out of the way, we're pleased to welcome you to this presentation, Caring for Colleagues from Isolation to Connection in Online Education. So our presenter today is Dr. Heather Pederson, a faculty member in the Doctor of Psychology program at UAGC. So Dr. Pederson, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Fair. My voice is a little bit off because I've been sick for about 6 days now. And we all know that I probably didn't take a sick day, did I? No, I worked through it. And it's really interesting because I was at a session this morning with Dr. Kara Metz, and then I was in a session right before this one listening to Caleb and Blake talk. And I realized that we're all really saying the same things, but putting it into different contexts. So I just thought that was interesting. So a little bit more of an introduction. Some of you in here know me and you've known me for quite a few years, but I've been an online educator strictly in doctoral programs. I'm just finishing up my 20th year, and I've been 100% online for 16 years. And the reason I know that is because I accepted a full-time position for an online university when I was nearly ready to deliver my twin babies. I was pregnant and I was in an interview, and I said to my husband, if they fly me for an interview, they're never going to hire me because, I was gigantic pregnant with two babies, and who's going to be productive. Little did they know that I would have my laptop open on my lap about 6 hours after I delivered them in the hospital, because that's what we do, right? So 16 years just in online education. I have served in a ton of roles, from adjunct faculty to program directors of research programs, program chair. My sweet spot, I have come to realize, is simply faculty. I love being a faculty member because I love our students and guiding them through the research phase of their programs. So I'm no longer interested in promotions or administrative work. I really love working with our students, and I especially love working with them at UAGC. I just passed the 7-year mark here. So I love my work. I usually look forward to Mondays. I'm usually very excited on Monday to come into my office, and most days are great. But I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say that over these past 2 decades, there haven't been times where I have felt like an outsider. I have felt lonely and isolated, and as though no one really knew me or anything about my life, or really even cared to know anything about my life. It was just kind of business and get your tasks done and get in and get out. So as faculty, we give it all to our students, and we all know that. We, I think, have done a fantastic job of demonstrating a culture of care for our students. And I don't think it's gone unnoticed. I think they really can feel that. I don't think we do as great of a job doing it for each other. And I know that I still have some opportunity for growth here. I catch myself thinking, okay, that's not through a culture of care lens. Let's delete that email. Or my little favorite button right now is click and the email friendlier. and it'll revise. I'm like, oh yeah, that's really how I wanted to say it. So I think that there are some strategies that we can use to boost our workplace wellness and really not just demonstrate a culture of care for students, but really live a culture of care as colleagues and as team members at all levels, no matter what your role here is. So, just an overview, we're going to talk a little bit about online education in 2025. I found some really interesting statistics, and I think that you'll find them pretty interesting as well. And then preparedness, probably not. How many of you were prepared during your college education to work in a home office teaching classes? Unless you are relatively new at this, you probably had virtually no training. And you were just, you felt it out on your own, or you were told, oh, well, here, do this webinar. So really, we probably aren't very well prepared to work in isolation or even online. And how we feel at work certainly has an impact on our productivity. It has an impact on our mental health, on our physical health, on our job satisfaction, on our retention. And guess what? All of that makes a trickle down effect for students. So the better we feel, the better we're going to be for our students. The old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. There are practical strategies for creating a culture of care. You're going to notice that some of them that I share today are some that we already do. And I can speak just from my team, and I'll tell you once we get to that slide, that the leadership in PsyD, they do practice some of these strategies. So I have a poll, but it's personal. You don't have to share it out loud. You don't have to put it in the chat unless you are like, I don't care, I'm saying it. But you can answer to yourself only if you're more comfortable. And I probably know the answer for many of you. Have you ever, in your online role, no matter which role you're in here, have you ever had low morale, felt isolated, felt disconnected from the people and the institution in which you work, or simply uncared for while working remotely? So if you really think about that, I could probably hit all of those, in the past 20 years. And I think, especially right now, those of us who all work for the same place, UAGC, we're experiencing great and rapid changes. And so sometimes that exacerbates these feelings. So I just want you to answer yourself. If you feel like posting it, that's fine. But I would predict that many of us have felt some of those things. So I wanted to title this slide something, meaningful. And I just couldn't because I'm flabbergasted by what I found. So I was just like, say what? Like, you're kidding me. So some interesting facts about online learning. It has a 9.1 compound annual growth rate by 2026, approximately 60 million learners by 2027. So this is back in 2022. Okay, so this is probably online learning is ramping up even faster because of the pandemic. The US market was worth about 100 billion. Now it's growing so quickly that by 2030 it will grow to almost 700 billion. Like, that's mind blowing. And China is the second largest online learning industry, but it doesn't even hold a candle, doesn't even come close to us. And this one, only 49% of full-time faculty members have been actually trained in online learning, and that's up from 36% pre-COVID. Of course, once people were forced to go online, there were some training programs that emerged, but not even half of full-time faculty members who are doing the same job that I do have actually been trained to do that. So I have a question for you. you can type this one in the chat if you'd like. What do you feel takes more time, energy, and effort? Your online position, your online teaching, or whatever role you're in, or if you were doing that same job in person in an office building? What takes more time and effort? And you can even add the word stress to it if you want. Somebody says office. Jen says online takes more time and effort. In person, all of those things, yes, but at a different university. Yes. So I feel, this is my personal opinion, that when you work remotely as a faculty member, that oftentimes the workload is much greater than if we were in a physical brick and mortar university, because I have friends who teach in, on ground, and it cracks me up when they say, yeah, I just post a sign on my door that says classes canceled today and tomorrow. I'm like, what? How can you do that? If we're out of our classrooms for a day or two, that's a, you have to plan for that, and that may be a big deal. So I have this statistic here, and I was trying to do a little more digging on that, and I'm going to. It says, according to the literature, online learning requires 60% less employee time. And than a classroom. I don't believe that. I don't believe that fact. And this online learning statistics link, this came from there, and there's all kinds. There's like Oxford University postings in there and things like that. But I just thought some of these facts were really interesting, especially that this industry is so gigantic, and not even half of the people who teach have been trained to do the actual job they've been hired to do. So we are in a time when we're experience not only explosive growth, but also, in the world of education at least, explosive uncertainty with the things going on in Washington and the dismantling of the Department of Education. If you work at UAGC, you're going through some other things with transitioning into UA. So I think with all of that being said, sometimes we forget that we are people first. We're not just employees. We're not just a teacher in a classroom. And we need to really make an effort to treat each other well and be cognizant of how our words and our virtual interactions affect each other. Um, so experiences of online faculty, we know that there's prolonged isolation. We maybe some of us see one time per year. If use your PD funds to go to graduation, I'll see you there for my one time a year. So we work with, there's no opportunity to get together socially, or even to step into each other's offices to collaborate on a project or anything like that. There's absolutely an absence of clear boundaries between work and personal life. Those of you who have given your students and everybody your cell phone number, you know that it would not be uncommon to be receiving texts and or phone calls at all hours of the day and night, and it doesn't matter what day it is, and it doesn't matter what holiday it is. If people have that access to you, they're going to use it. So we're not great at setting clear boundaries between work and personal life. We are literally on work 24/7. And many of us, and I know there are several of you in the room because I work somewhat closely with you, you are chronic overworkers. You absolutely are. You take your laptop on vacation. You spend time working on Saturday and Sunday. You may even have your laptop open in the evening when you're spending time with your family. Um, we need to, I think, have some conversations. We need to absolutely get guidance on how we can all stop doing that. Unlike working in, let's say, a bank, when you leave work at 5 o'clock and drive home, well, your work, depending on your position, stayed there. You don't bring it home with you. Well, our work is with us all the time. And I think we really lack personal and meaningful relationships within the workplace. Some of you, I only know via email. That's all. And maybe an occasional Zoom meeting, yet we work, quote, together. So it's difficult to build meaningful relationships when you are never with another person. Sometimes there's ineffective communication. I shut my email off during this presentation because you would have just heard ta-ding, ta-ting constantly, because emails never stop, so they would just keep coming in. Then you might hear another cool sound. That would be a Teams ping. And then there might be someone else who sends a message through Viva Engage. So we're trying to keep track of all of these different areas where people are trying to essentially get a hold of us. They're trying to get our attention for something. And it really isn't all that effective. There are excessive procedural mistakes and email tag because we're not speaking to each other and saying, I would really love it if you could do this. We try to type that out, and sometimes it's difficult and it's unclear. And even though we think the message is crystal clear, it doesn't get received that way. This happens oftentimes when we're working on certain initiatives, things like that. We are constantly multitasking. I don't know how many of you have multiple tabs open, probably even right now during this conference, because we're always multitasking and doing several different things at once. And then the gravel in the background, we had the training where all the emails come in. So while you're working, while you're reading a student's paper, you hear ta-ting, and so you have to stop and go do that. And we really don't have any physical cues. We don't know when we receive an email, the intention, unless we, kind of infer that. So with no physical cues, we kind of have to interpret the tone. And I know personally for me, I am not great at putting positive tone in my emails. And that's why I use that little friendly button now, because it really will improve it. Because I don't mean to sound abrasive or negative. It's probably because I'm not taking enough time and I'm just stating the actual facts and getting the email out. And I receive lots of emails like that as well, where I'm like, ooh, she seems mad, or, oh, is that person upset with me? When the answer is no, it's just the way that I'm inferring it. So, how can we better connect with each other? So there's all kinds of strategies for virtual team care. Some of these will be familiar to you because we practice some of these here. Of course, informal check-ins, team meetings, one-on-one conversations. I think all of us probably do those. Um, I think we're really bad. I think we're really, really bad at the second one, encouraging clear boundaries between work and personal life through flexible schedules, time off policies, and respectful communication while people are away. In good news, I am a part of the Wellness Committee, which is a subcommittee from Faculty Council, and we're actually working on this to make it better for faculty and easier to take time off without having to take your computer with you. And that's really, really, really tough to do. Many of you know that I'm leaving right after this presentation. We're going to the Bahamas with our kids for spring break. This is the second time that I've ever gone on vacation in many, many, many years without taking this computer. And I'm a little nervous about it, but I spent all weekend prepping for my students. I communicated with all of them. They have everything they need to be productive and be okay until I get back. But we are working on some policies to make that easier so people can feel confident that when they're away, things will be handled. I thought this one was a little bit interesting. Recognizing achievements, even small wins, through virtual recognition programs, which ours just went away 2 weeks ago. Shout outs, informal celebrations can help boost morale, and building empathy and communication. This takes practice, and we're not trained in how to virtually communicate very well. It's really difficult to know. You would have no idea that I've been sick for the last 6 days unless you were in a Zoom meeting with me and you could hear my voice or see me coughing. You would have no idea. There are other personal challenges that you wouldn't even know about if you were speaking to the person on Zoom, because we don't always feel comfortable talking about those things. And then using tone effectively, I think when we're speaking to each other in a meeting, that that comes across, but in email, it can be tough. I do something silly with my students. When I provide feedback on a paper, even if it's not like, a great paper, I still put a smiley face or something positive, because I feel like they're going to think that I'm mad that they didn't do well on the paper. And I certainly am not. I usually say, this is a learning experience. Let's meet. But that little smiley face just seems to um, demonstrate a positive tone, and hopefully make them feel like not all is lost. Some of us know some of our colleagues who have big kind of life events happening, whether it's terminal illnesses, raising children of any age, caring for aging parents, um, anything of that nature. I feel like in my day, I run out of time every day, and I have really good intentions of, oh, I should reach out to so and so to see how, excuse me, to see how, so and so is doing, but I don't. And that's on me. So that's definitely an area of opportunity. Um, I have experienced a couple times where someone has reached out to me, Kelly Olson Stewart, just to ask, how are you doing? How are things? When she knew that there was kind of a giant storm, in my work realm. And I greatly appreciated that, but I just don't think we make enough time for that. I think we just go about our lives. Um, I think sometimes we also forget that everybody has different, unique backgrounds, different personalities. You may think that something is a super great idea, but your colleague may not think that that's a super great idea. Um, and meetings, the share a cup of coffee or virtual happy hour or let's connect, those have to be done in a way that it isn't just one more meeting, if you know what I mean. I know that Michelle does Cup of Joe, and I never go, and it's awful. My supervisor does it, and I don't go because the old excuse, I'm too busy. So I'm gonna post these strategies here, and some of them, like you'll see, the virtual coffee break, wellness challenges, photo share. These are just some of the things that we can do to better support each other. I was feeling a little badly that nobody asked me to collaborate on a presentation for this conference, and I slept on it, and a couple days later I thought, well, boy, that's dumb to feel badly, because guess what? I didn't ask anyone either. So I would like for you to post in the chat if there's anything that you feel is missing, or something that you do or that we could do to better support each other and connect. Or if you have any questions. People in the chat are saying I've gone on vacation only once without taking a class with me. Yeah. Yeah. Darla, that's awesome. Sometimes you just message folks in teams to check in. Walking meetings? I want to hear more about that, Allie. And Haley, spot on, helping one another reinforce healthy boundaries. Absolutely.
We had a
Lots of
couple walking meetings with a group in SGS who was doing the fitness challenge. And everyone says it's okay to be like on a walking pad, but then you're the only one and you feel funny when you're in the meeting and you're like, where am I walking to? Nowhere. I'm on a walking pad. It's just kind of a weird thing. But then we started going outside and just having a 30-minute chat while we were walking, and I loved it. Made me so happy.
Wow, that is fantastic. I'm going to jot down that idea. Something so simple, right? It's so simple. It's free, it's simple. We need to do that. Excellent. Well, I think we are at the end of our time. If anybody has any questions, you can shoot me an email, but I'm not going to reply until next weekend because I'm shutting my computer and I really am gonna to take a little rest and relaxation time with my husband and kids.
Awesome, Dr. Pederson. Thanks so much for your time and for helping us all get regrounded in some of those principles. And by living it yourself and jumping in a car and heading to the Bahamas, it's exciting. We're all excited for you and a little bit jealous, I'm sure, as well. And thank you, everybody, for attending this session. We appreciate your participation in the chat. Hopefully, you found the conversation inspiring. I know that I did. It makes me want to go out and go for a hike actually later today. So to figure out where you can go next, we can plug in the chat the link back to the main session. But on behalf of the Department of Behavioral Sciences at UAGC, thank you for attending this session. We're going to get our next one started here pretty soon if you're sticking around. So thanks, everyone.